All right, geometry, welcome to Skill 2 for this week. In this section, we're going to be looking at similar shapes. Now, way back in the early parts of the course, we learned about congruent shapes. We learned that their angle measures are equal and their sides are also equal. That means that if you have two congruent shapes, you don't really have to do any math to match the things up. Once you've determined which angle in one shape matches up with which angle in another, or which side matches up with which side, you simply know that they are equal. Similar shapes are not quite the same. The good news is their angles are definitely still equal, but their sides are proportional. So that means that there's going to be two different types of questions. Questions where there's no math to do, you just have to match up the corresponding angles, and then questions where we'll have to set up a proportion and solve. So this first question tells us that the shapes are similar, and we're asked to find that missing angle. I should be able to tell that that is an acute angle inside the quadrilateral. That means it has to match up with the acute angle inside this quadrilateral. But the good news is, even though this shape is larger than that shape, the angle measures are still equal. So that means that the missing angle has to be the same as the acute angle in this shape, and so my answer is 74. When I type that in and submit, we should see our score improve, and as you can tell, there was no math to do. And so there you go, you can see our score has improved. The next question also is about a missing angle. So I'd match up the angles that correspond to each other, type in my answer, and again, move on. Let's see if we can find one of the missing side length questions. So for this question, I am not finding a missing angle measure. Instead, I'm finding a missing side length. Now you'll notice that the score right now is very high. That means that you're likely not to even come across a question that will have an answer like the one we're going to see until you get much more far into the skill. You might see easier versions of this question show up in the lower scores. But let's take a look. So I'm still told that the two shapes are similar. In order to find the missing side, I'm going to have to set up a proportion. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you a way to set up a proportion because there are many ways to set up a proportion. So it's really up to you. I like to simply pair up the sides and use those for both sides of my proportion. I notice that the 36 in this shape is the longer side, and the W represents the longer side. I'm going to put 36 over W because I'm going from left to right. But I could put W over 36, or in my proportion, I could pair up these two numbers and then pair up those two numbers. There's lots of ways to set it up. Now, because I went from left to right, I have to do the same thing on the other side. So I have to go 9 over 11. The only way you can set up your proportion incorrectly is if one of your sides gets flipped and the other does not. But as long as you're taking your time to pair them up, you hopefully will set up your proportion correctly. Now, just like in the first skill, we cross multiply. 9 times W to get 9W. And most of you are going to want a calculator for the other piece. 36 times 11 is 396. Now, I still have to divide, and fortunately, most of your answers will in fact still give you integers. And this one is no exception. So I'm getting a final answer on this one of 44. So guys, you can see that even once the skill gets to a pretty high level, you are still going to get pretty nice answers. So this is certainly more challenging than the first skill, but hopefully not a huge step up. One more skill left this week. I'll see you in the next video.